I challenge you to a duel.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 47 of the Movie Duel podcast. My name is Peter and I am your host. On each episode of the Movie Duel podcast, we pick a subject based around movies, and then two of my co-hosts each pick a film that they think best fits that subject. The only rule being that you can't pick a film that has already been discussed on the podcast. So for this episode we are doing the most underrated British music biopic film. Joining me for this episode is movie duelist Jamie Russell, and Jamie will be going head to head with a very special guest. I invited Mr. Sean Panda Nicholson from the 4 Songs and a Dream podcast to go head to head with Jamie, and we will be discussing their choices momentarily. But before we get into that, just a few points of order for this episode. As always, just a reminder about how you can get in touch with us here at the Movie Duel podcast. You'll find all of our links in the show notes for this episode, as well as a link to our Patreon page. We can find lots and lots of extra content from as little as $1 a month. So please check that out. As always, if you've got the time to do so, if you could leave us a rating and review on whatever podcast app you listen to us on, preferably 5-star. It does help us get new listeners, get us into the algorithms of the podcast apps and things like that. And it's nice for us to see that people are enjoying the podcast. It only takes a couple of minutes, so if you could do that, it would be much, much appreciated. And just a word of warning about this episode, there will be spoilers for both films that we discuss, and there will be some strong language as well. So, I hope you enjoy episode 47 of the Movie Duel podcast.
Sid Vicious was once asked whether when he made his music, he thought about the man in the street, and Sid answered, "No, I've met the man in the street. He's a cunt."
Okay, so welcome back to Jamie. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, Peter.
How are you?
I'm good. Even though there's going to be high Scottish content here, I might pull back from my previous swearing.
Yes, please do. I think we sort of, if we had a bleep machine, it would have been broken over the last 3 or 4 episodes. I think it's heavy, very high C content.
I'll be on my best behaviour.
Okay, I'm sure we can probably squeeze one in somewhere. And yes, as Jamie mentioned there, we are going all Scottish again, near enough. Anyway, obviously sans for me. We have got ourselves an incredible special guest who is going to be taking on Jamie for this episode. And that is our very, very good friend from the 4 Songs and a Dream podcast. It is Mr. Sean Panda Nicholson. Sean, hello.
Hey! And super supporter as well.
And super supporter, yes.
Super supporter.
Our greatest, best number 2 fan is Mr. Sean Panda Nicholson.
Yes, number 2. I did quite like number 2, apart from, it's very much Reservoir Dogs. He Mr. Shit. I'll take it.
Who does number 2 work for?
But yeah, no, I have to say again, this is an absolute pleasure.
It is. Well, it's a welcome back, really, because obviously you've been here before for a quick draw many moons ago, and obviously, we did a podcast together for a little short period of time. But yes, finally, we can get you here on a dual episode.
Yes, I'm very excited as well because you chose a very good subject.
Yes. Well.
Close to my heart.
This is tailor-made for you.
It is absolutely tailor-made. Yes. So we went for, well, we changed this up a little bit. I mean, we're going to go with the most underrated music biopic. or British music biopic.
I think British, yeah.
music biopic. The films that you guys consider maybe a little bit overlooked and maybe not seen by as many people as you feel that it should do. Okay? Although we could quite easily have called this episode "How to Be a Shit Husband," really, and father. But we will get into that connection as we discuss these movies. But I mean, first of all, music biopics. Sean, are you generally a fan? Obviously we know you're a big music lover and a musician yourself, a very talented musician yourself. But generally, do you like sort of seeing these dramatizations of real musicians?
Sometimes. I will probably get into it later on, but I don't know. I don't like ones that shy away a bit too much, because we know about all the horrible stuff celebrities do. And why sugarcoat it? I like a bit of, yeah, but I also like when it's done a different way. I don't want I don't want to get too much into it before we start chatting.
That's
But
fine. That's fine.
yeah,
But do you
like
generally sort of seek them out? Do you think, oh, that's a music biopic. I'm quite interested in that.
it depends on the subject, I
Okay.
think, because there's some people I'm just not that bothered about, to be honest. It's like and there's like things like I still haven't watched Get Back, even though it's not like a biopic, but
Mm,
because I just don't want the mystery ruined. I
mm,
want the Beatles to sort of remain as this kind of amazing thing that happened. I don't
mm.
want to see behind. I don't want to see how the sausage is made.
Right.
Okay, that's kind of what I mean. Like, I think they're just such a yeah. I don't want. Yeah, I just don't want that. I don't want that ruined for me.
Okay.
I can appreciate that. Yeah,
But you generally a fan, Jamie?
it's not my go-to,
Okay.
to be honest. I've watched a few, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's my.
Because I mean,
I'd actively look for it.
there's a hell of a lot, isn't there? And I think sometimes it can feel like sort of rinse and repeat with a lot of these
Mm.
the sort of biopics. Because I mean, I always find that I prefer the ones that I don't necessarily know so much about sometimes, because I think if you know too much, it ruins it. It's like one we may probably discuss at some point tonight is like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Mm.
I've watched countless documentaries on Queen, so I know what the real story is. And and then, but when you watch these films, which obviously take creative license with the story, but when you know the real story, you're like, well, that didn't happen. It doesn't happen like that. That didn't
Mhm.
happen like that. And then
Yeah.
you just ruin. I think it ruins the film for you. It takes you out of it. But if it's somebody you don't necessarily know about, something like Walk the Line. I knew who Johnny Cash was, but I didn't know his story. And obviously, there's still a fair bit of creative license in that. But you can enjoy it as a film, I think, a bit more if you don't know so much of the story.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, you've chosen two quite similar films in some respects and quite different in other respects. But we're going to go to Jamie first for his choice. So,
Yeah.
Jamie, what have you chosen?
I eventually came up with Good Vibrations from 2012.
Once upon a time in the city of Belfast, there lived a boy named Terry.
Do you want to come back to my mum and dad's?
No. Do you want to go back to my mum and dad's?
No. I want to open a record shop.
We had every kind of beautiful record on our shelves.
I'll put that record out. You're pissed. So what? You're making a record. Will you record us too?
I'm not that pissed.
If we don't get a record soon, it'll be too late. What you say your name was? Fergal Sharkin.
That's the best thing I ever recorded. Everybody has to hear them. Everybody.
looking friends.
What is wrong with you people? Teenage kicks right through the night.
It was all gonna be absolutely fine. Trust me.
You gave me the best 2 minutes of my life.
John Peel.
It's so good, I'm going to do something I've never done before.
We made it, we cracked the code, we did it without them. Money couldn't buy what we've just done. Good Vibrations isn't a record shop. It's not a label. It's a way of life.
In 1970s Belfast, Terry Hooley is an idealistic music lover who finds himself caught in the middle of Northern Ireland's bitter troubles. Seeing a parallel in the chaos with Jamaica, Hooley opens a record shop called Good Vibrations to help bring reggae music to his city to help encourage some harmony. However, Hooley soon discovers a new music genre, punk rock, and is inspired by its youthful vitality to become an important record producer and promoter of the local scene. In doing so, Hooley would struggle both with the industry and his chaotic personal life that threatened to consume him. So, directed by husband and wife team of Lisa Barros I'm not sure about the pronunciation there, and Glenn Leyburn. Writers Colin Carberry and Glenn Paddison. And the main cast, Richard Dormer plays Terry Hooley, Jodie Whittaker plays Ruth, Carl Johnson, George Hooley, Michael Colgan, Dave Heineman, Liam Cunningham, Davy Dillon, Moran plays Pat, and Ruth McCabe, Mavis Hooley.
So, I mean, this is produced by Chris Martin. Is that the Chris Martin? As in Coldplay Chris Martin? Do you know?
It might be, because I'm pretty sure does Snow Patrol not have some sort of connection as well?
Yes, Snow Patrol promoted it, I think, and then they provided some of the cast, some of the extras, and I think for the final scene.
Yeah, but I don't know. Well,
I'm on the Wikipedia page and I can't click on Chris Martin, which would seem unusual.
Oh yeah, it'll be a different Chris Martin then.
All right. I suppose it's quite a common name, but there we go. Yeah. So Good Vibrations. So Jamie, when did you first come across this film?
I came across it before Filmbusters brought it to their pod, but it wasn't.
Sean brought it to the Filmbusters.
Yeah, he did. He did indeed. But I had watched it prior to that, but it was another podcast that brought it up, and one of the reasons why I thought it would be good for an underrated one. This is a podcast, very sort of it was All the Right Movies.
Okay, yeah,
and they are very knowledgeable about film, and
as are we, Jamie.
As are we, but they chose, when it was chosen by one to look at, the other three hadn't watched it, and it's a film that I don't think. I mean, it was very successful in Northern Ireland. It was the highest grossing film in Northern Ireland when it first came out. But apart from there, I think it's a film that can quite easily go under the radar and not really. At the time I watched it, I hadn't heard of it, and I hadn't heard of Terry Hooley either. And so I watched it then, and I thought for Sean's debut Jewel, he would love to speak about it again, because I know how much he loves the film. It's a comfort watch for him. So I thought let's have a chat about it.
Excellent. So obviously you loved it when you first watched it.
Yeah.
What sort of drew you to it, or what What floated your boat about it?
Nothing specific drew me to it. It was recommended by the podcast. I thought, well, I'm going to watch it because I want to hear what I wanted to sort of listen to their episode. So that's what sort of initially drew me to it. Yeah, it's I think soundtrack wise, just it's a great film for its soundtrack. It's wonderful, and it's a soundtrack that's also not what you would. This could well be because of the low budget of the film that they weren't able to get the rights for the bigger artists, but it's some of the music that you wouldn't normally sort of typically hear. It's got a wide range. It's got reggae, it's got folk, as well as obviously the punk. So it's quite eclectic. But it's fantastic tracks in there. Shangri-La, and I like it even ends with a bit of Bowie at the end as well. So that's always good.
It's another thing that links these films. There's a bit of Bowie.
Indeed. And I thought that's perfect for you because it's with your other shared podcast, you always have to have a bit of Bowie in it. So there you go.
Bit of Bowie connection.
A bit of Bowie.
Yeah,
I love Bowie.
But I mean, this was a first time watch for me. It had been sort of on my radar because obviously the Film Busters had covered it, and I knew that Sean was a big fan, but I'd never got round to it, and I'd not really heard of it before then either.
There you go.
I'd heard. I mean, I'd heard of Good Vibrations, record, and I knew there was a bit of history there, and obviously, I'm a reasonably big fan of the Undertones. I think the Undertones are a brilliant band, but I didn't know the history. So this was one of those films where I could sort of lose myself in it, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really sort of. It took me by surprise from the start because it was obviously it's obviously shot very sort of not tongue in cheek. That's not the right phrase, but it takes a sort of, we get this sort of light-hearted introduction to something obviously very dark with the Troubles, but it sort of sets that scene quite well. I mean, if you don't, especially if you don't know really what the whole sort of the Troubles is about, it sets it out very nicely and very simply at the start of this film.
Without needing to go into much detail, because it was clearly aimed at a Northern Ireland audience. You don't need to hit them over the head about the Troubles, obviously.
Yeah.
So I know I've re-listened to the Film Busters episode, and I don't know, Ben was wanting just a little bit more sort of of the darkness of that, but I don't think it was needed. And that was not really the soulful the point of the film. Yeah.
I think if you'd have had that, then it would the whole tone of the film would be all over the place.
Yeah,
because I think that there's dark moments, but I think those dark moments come from a more sort of humanist and sort of relationships side of the story, and just how Terry Hooley sort of interacts with the people close to him. Or how his behaviour really. I think it's more his behaviour.
Yeah.
But you sort of it doesn't rest on that. You get these introductions to at the start, and obviously it's the reason he's sort of pushing for this record store and trying to get people lost in music or united by music almost.
Yeah, absolutely. That's clearly it's the main sort of theme of the film. It's the uniting power of music, how it can, cross various divisions, boundaries, and I think that works well. I mean, you could argue that it is a bit rose tinted, a bit idealistic, but I think it's still hits you in the right sort of feels.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of Terry Hooley's outlook, though, isn't it? He's quite a rose-tinted glasses type guy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But an interesting character. Obviously a deeply is he deeply flawed? I wouldn't say he's deeply flawed, but he is flawed. And I like that. I remember you mentioned, Sean, that it made you feel, so sometimes you get these protagonists and they're sort of unattainable. They're too good.
Yeah.
Whereas he is a grounded, flawed human. He loves his music. His music is what is real sort of passion for him. And sometimes through that passion, he tends to just forget about other responsibilities in his life. But he does have principles. You can't say he doesn't. They might be a bit skewed at times, but
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, it's he has certain morals at certain points, and then it's like, well, yeah, but you have still got a wife and a child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I think, and I, probably have had a different opinion of him as a character, 10, 15 years ago. I think I'd have probably been a lot more down for it. I think
that's a good point. Sean, did you, when you first watched the film, was it pre-parenthood, or was it always you've always had?
Yeah, I've always had kids.
So
Always
because
had kids.
Always had kids.
Yes, ever since I was born.
It's quite recent. It's 2012.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Yeah, because I can't remember when I first watched it, but it was. Oh no, it would have been like probably about 4 years ago or something, 3, 4 years ago,
Right.
and that's what made me go for my current job.
Yes.
That's
you
the
mentioned
big
that.
thing because I was caught by and I was inspired by it, even though I obviously wasn't inspired to be a dick to my wife or my kids, but I was very much inspired to go for it. It's not about money, it's not about fame even. It's just about doing the thing. And I think that I was sort of stuck in a normal job and like a 9 to 5, and well, it wasn't actually, but it's just the same thing every day, repetitive. And then I saw this film and I was sort of like, why not apply for the jobs that you might not get, but it's something you want to do. And then I did, and I got it, and it was just it was easy. It's been pretty good.
So it has actually transformed your life. Watching that film,
This
you
film
could
is
argue.
I would say so.
Wow.
But obviously, I do understand. We'll probably speak more about his the terrible things he does. Well, not terrible, but I suppose they are too. I'm sure
Irresponsible.
irresponsible.
Yes.
He's not a bad person. He's just, like you said, forgets about what is important. In the pursuit of something
Yeah.
that he loves.
Yeah. And I
Which
think, I
again, I
suppose
kind
it
of
would.
get though.
I suppose.
I do understand that feeling of like doing something like, because like this job as well that I've got, managing a theater. Sometimes like I'll be playing with my kids and then I'll get a message and I'll be like, no, I have to deal with this message. But then I'm like, well, but this is your time with your kids, man. You gotta, as much as you want to do that, this is your kid time, and that's more important right now. It's sort of but I think this film's good for letting me know that I should prioritize as well. It gives you that side of the coin. Like if you were being a dick, this is what it could look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think sort of Richard Dormer sort of stands up in this film, Jamie? Do you think he's a good lead?
I think he's really good. He's it's a difficult character to make you sort of feel anything for, really, and until I think he's when he finds the punk rock, and then he and how that sort of just transforms him. I mean, just abandoning his responsibilities is difficult to, obviously to watch. But it's a passionate performance. I think it's a good performance. He's not I don't know him from anything particular. He's not a name.
Well, the only thing I know him from, and I just wonder if this is maybe him getting a little bit typecast as a one-eyed man, but he was Beric Dondarrion in Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was another
Yeah.
character with one eye.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And he was in
I think he does
Fortitude as
have
well, which I watched.
2 eyes, doesn't he?
He does.
Have,
Yeah.
Yeah, I checked that because I was like, that's the guy from Game of Thrones with one eye. I wonder if he doesn't really have
He
one
did
eye.
he did go method for the film though a little bit. He had
Yeah.
a little prosthetic over his eye, so it gave him the impression of being one-eyed. So yeah. He was obviously committed to the role, and I thought it was a good performance of a difficult character to portray. Really,
I think he does. He acts very well with his body, with his face, and everything else.
Yes.
You know, there's certain points where you have to believe that he's you know, something's entering his consciousness. You know, like that moment where he hears punk for the first time, effectively.
Yeah.
And
see it in his face.
I mean, one of my favourite scenes from the whole film, and I think it's done absolutely masterfully, is when he hears Teenage Kicks for the first time.
Yeah, because we don't hear it.
Because we don't hear
Exactly.
it. No, we know it because we know exactly what it's going to be.
And I like the way they hold it off for a long time, and then gives it that extra impact when it is finally shown with the famous John Peel.
Yeah,
play it again.
Yeah.
And
I remember hearing
that's
that.
a scene. That is the scene for me in the film that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
And there's a personal reason for it for me, because when I was at university, a group of friends who all shared the same sort of university halls accommodation, and not every time, but lots of times before they'd go out, they would play that song because it was their sort of
anthem.
Yeah. So they just slam that off. I'll go around, so you're coming out and we need to play Teenage Kicks. Okay, so we'd all listen to that together and get really sort of pumped up, and out we go. And one of the one that I knew the most and was particularly friendly with, who spoke at our wedding, died a number of years ago. So, it was emotional watching that scene, and it was goosebumps, but also it was also quite sad. It was a combination of goosebumps and a few tears for that scene.
Yeah.
But it's a great scene. It really is. It's a standout scene, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. I mean, it's they could have done that scene in so many different ways, but I think that it is just perfect. Like you say, we don't hear it until it is played on the radio by John Peel, who actually, just to mention John Peel for a quick minute, I didn't realise quite how a despicable cunt he is, or was.
Yeah.
Mr. John Peel.
Yeah. There's a few skeletons in his closet.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Quite a lot, which we won't go into, but
No.
I'm sure you can find it on the Tinterweb if you want to read up about how much of a bastard he is. Well, they're really a bastard. He was just a bit sick, really. Yeah. Anyway, yes. So, but I think there's definitely a few moments, and this is essentially a comedy film as well, as much as a biopic. This is very much in the vein of The Commitments. I think you can see a
feel good
fair bit of influence on the style of the film almost. I mean, even sort of shades of Big Lebowski, I think, in terms of just the style that it's shot in and some of these sort of
Is
hyper scenes that we have.
One of his dreams, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there was some very, very funny moments that I sort of laughed out loud on, actually, which is very unusual watching a film on my own. Particularly where he says about, I can't remember which band it is, but he says, "Oh, are you gonna record? Are you gonna record us too?" He says, "I'm not pissed" or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I
Not
can't
that
remember
fucking
which.
pissed.
No, that fucking pissed. Yeah.
I look terrible. I shouldn't be doing an accent, actually. Is that offensive?
I don't know. I was hoping you're going to do your accents, Sean, because you had quite a few in the Film Busters podcast. So,
Yeah. Oh, it's he makes me speak like that though. You know, Terry Hooley. I love it.
Terry,
The
yeah.
Shangri-Las.
It fascinates me. It's a bit like the South African accent. It just fascinates me, the Northern Irish accent, because it's just they just go to such weird sort of places and inflections in the accent. It's like it's mesmerizing, I think. I can't remember he was the one from Girls Aloud, and she was on something. And it
Oh,
was,
Nadine Coyle.
yeah, there's a clip of
Flower.
her.
It's
Flower,
just
that's it.
flower. Flower.
Flower,
Flower. Yeah. That's all I remember is flower.
flower, flower. Um, and then I mean, this, I don't know whether this is derogatory term, but I think is it the policeman who stops them and he says, "Are you taking the mick? Mick?"
Yeah.
That tickled me as well. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely got its sort of comedy moments and
Yeah.
quite a few sort of comedy characters. I mean, the most hilarious thing in this film is Adrian Dunbar's wigs.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
ridiculous.
They really did him dirty in that because I thought when I saw him early on, because obviously, I mean, I don't think 2011 Adrian Dunbar was quite as sort of well known. Obviously, we know him as Ted Hastings from Line of Duty quite famously now, but I don't think he was that much of a bigger name. So maybe watching this and I was thinking, well, surely he's going to come back later on as like a skinhead or something, and that's why they've got these really bad wigs on him as sort of comedy value, and he's going to, be bald or something by the end of the film. But he just doesn't appear
Yeah, there's no need
after
for
two
it.
scenes earlier on. He's
Well,
just not there.
I imagine that the amount of money they can spend on wigs on a low budget film is never going to be particularly high, is
Yeah.
it? So
Well, no, but then surely you just think, just
Just
do
leave him
something a
bald.
bit more 70s with his hair that he's actually got, because he's got some locks on him. He's got quite the biggish hairstyle in Line of Duty and in real life.
he might have
But
shaved them all off.
yeah, maybe. And it took me forever to figure out who Terry Hooley's dad was. It's
Oh yeah. From Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, Bob Walker from Hot
Yeah.
Fuzz. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But I really liked his dad in it. I thought the character was really, the fact that he's sort of protesting outside the shop and stuff and,
Yeah.
and telling him he's a failure kind of thing,
Mm.
or it's a load of shit, basically.
It's quite funny because they're doing the same thing, really. There's the father. Yeah, it's just the son sort of replicating the same thing because his
Yeah.
dad's keeps going for the same party because that's the thing he loves, even though he's not winning. And that's fine. It's fine not to win as long as you're passionate about what you're doing.
There was something, I suppose, to be said. I think the emotion in the film does feel a little bit soapy.
Mm.
I think particularly his sort of relationship with his wife Ruth, played by Jodie Whittaker, who can pull off an Irish accent really well.
Mhm.
I did wonder when she popped up in the credits, are they gonna, is it gonna be a dodgy accent? But she pulls it off pretty well. But yeah, I just thought that sort of edge to the story it did feel a little bit by the numbers, especially towards the end. And she maybe didn't get to have maybe a bit more range that would have made the story a little bit more interesting, I suppose.
I would have liked a little bit more from her as a character. I know it's a difficult role to be fully sort of fleshed out like that, but I thought she was a standout performance really in the film. I thought she was excellent.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's, she in the early part of the film, she's such a super supportive wife, and she's just a fantastic wife to him. She trusts him, You know, she believes everything that he says, and she's there for him and this endeavor that he's sort of going on, and being so supportive. And he's just a complete arsehole in
Yeah.
his decisions. You know, he's not particularly, horrible to her or anything like that, but just by this sort of almost gaslighty, not, to a massive degree, but, he's just sort of, he's lying to her, and he's
Mm.
making these decisions that are going to impact them further down the line, and obviously do. And he's just really not a very good businessman.
Yeah.
Nope.
But I
It
think as
is,
well is I'm sure there's like I think all of his wives, even I think he's had a few wives, but they've not had really bad things to say about him, even
mm,
though, they're just sort of like, he wasn't a good husband, but he's not a bad person.
yeah. Well, that's it. I
Mm.
mean,
Yeah.
he's it's all right on the one hand to say, you do what you want to do, and you should take these chances, and you could create something great, which is all fair enough. But then ultimately, it's the other people that it affects, because I'm sure, it not just affected his wife and his child, but I'm sure at some point, it would have impacted on the bands that he pushed and everything as well. They say it's a very similar story to somebody we'll get onto with like Tony Wilson,
Mm.
and this, the poor decisions that he made in for the sake of being about the music. And that's not to say that, these producers, managers, or whatever you want to call them, or heads of, you know, record companies, have to be selfish pricks and just all about the money. But you've got to be, you've got to have enough business acumen to
Yeah.
make it worthwhile for everybody, and not, push people into other decisions and bad lifestyles, I suppose. I don't
But
know.
I mean, selling the teenage kicks or the
Yeah,
Undertated for like the price of a van is
yeah,
insane. That's
absolutely.
just idiotic. It's not about the money. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I know, but
Yeah, but if you had money can be used to buy food.
yeah, you could help
Support your family.
yourself out, or even
Yeah.
your music. It could help
Well,
with
that's it.
your
You can still
record
you can
shop if you
still
keep it
you can
open.
still make money and maintain your integrity.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not just about being so blasé to it and everything else.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, Sean, you obviously love this film.
Yeah. It's a big comfort film. I love it. I love like watching it, and like I don't even mind. I'm like, he's okay, he's a bad dad, but so many people are. I'm sure fucking um what's his name? And John McClane in Die Hard. I'm sure he's not really good at dad, but I mean, we don't really talk about
and
that.
and you have to take the context into it, the time it was made.
Yeah. I mean, in '70s, the dads would not have as much to do
No,
with
no.
kids, and wives would be more in the house, and things like that. I understand that, yeah, but it's just, yeah, it's like the whole. Did he miss the birth, or was he just, Did he just? I'm trying to think now. I've seen this film tons of times.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
Yeah, and then he just sort of turns up with all these people drunk,
yeah.
and you're like, oh, come on, man.
But then he
But
has the wherewithal not to hold the baby because he doesn't feel that he's
yeah.
in the position to do so, which is, I suppose, something.
But yeah, no, I just love it. I find it just inspiring, just like because you can just taking bits of it, having the gut, because it's so hard to just go for something, especially something you don't know what the outcome's going to be.
Mm.
Hmm.
Like I was talking about this with a friend at work recently, like because they were talking about wanting to leave and do something, but like it's just a whole upheaval of it all. And I'm like, yeah, but would you want to be unhappy for the rest of your life? Or would you rather go and at least try? Because you can always come back.
Yeah.
You just want to, yeah, but it's going to. it's that it just makes me want to do things. It makes me want to. I don't know. It inspires me, that film, every time. And it's not like, I don't think it's like the best made film or anything. I think it's, it's fairly, like you're saying, just that's by the numbers, normal kind of film. There's nothing, like, I don't think there's much that really sets it apart from anything else. Like any other kind of Britishy, and oh, sorry, don't say British. Um, but like,
You
from,
can. Northern Ireland is Britain.
oh,
We
Northern
checked.
Line, that's fine. British, sort of like film like it. I think it's not too different, but
Okay.
I just think it's just I don't know. There's bits about it I just absolutely love, and it
Well, I
will
mean,
always,
It's a film that talks to you, basically.
yeah. And it
It's
never it never fails to entertain. If it was on TV, I would watch it. I would always. It's one of those films where it's always going to be me. I think I think it's just
well,
for me.
I think the whole punk scene and that sort of emergence of punk was is always a rich sort of storytelling place to go
Mm.
to because of, obviously it was very anarchic and everything, but it was also, it was also something that very much sort of brought different kind of people together, just from this film. Obviously, Terry Hooley is very much, of a certain generation and a certain style of what he likes in music and stuff. And, that's all is literally flipped on its head just from this one encounter.
Mhm.
He's clearly a lot older than, your typical sort of punks and the people who were really jumping on that movement at the time. And I think it's great in showing that sort of that Northern Irish sort of end of the punk progression, I suppose.
Mm.
Although it wasn't hugely different, I think, this film goes some way to make it feel very particular to the Northern Irish
Yeah.
experience, I suppose.
There's
Because
only
then,
so many times you can hear about the Sex Pistols as well. I
yeah,
mean, you need to. Well, they weren't the only band that were about.
yeah. Well, I mean, this sort of goes a little bit, just past that, doesn't it? Because I suppose really, you know, um, the undertones were really sort of post-punk. They weren't the typical sort of, certainly not aesthetically, your
Mm.
typical punks. They were sort of post-punk and that little bit more everyday,
Yeah.
I suppose. It doesn't mean, that their impact was any less than any of those original sort of punk bands, but I think punk was it was almost this sort of almost sort of allowed white people to get away with dancing and having no rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's that great scene where there's like five people at the front of the
Oh
crowd
yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody's sat on the exterior and then everybody sort of starts to join in because they can, it's dancing around like a tit basically. You don't have to have rhythm. It's all about the sort of tempo and the beat of what's coming from these punk bands and just the energy.
Yeah, the energy.
And they do really, those sort of live performances. I don't know if they were, actually singing or it was sort of piped in on these ones. I'm
Mm.
guessing it was probably sort of piped in, and they were sort of miming, but it still manages to portray that live feeling from these acts.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jamie, anything else you want to add?
I was about to sneeze there. That's why I was going to put the mute
All
on. I was
right,
going to
okay.
mute out my sneeze, but that's how I recovered myself. I mean, I, I, I like the end scene that it builds up to that. It's quite a it's uh, it's a feel good ending,
Mm.
and how he's able to get uh, his sort of performance in the Ulster Hall, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where all of the Snow Patrol extras are used for that, I understand. Yeah, there's a point that we've already mentioned. The soundtrack is great. It's throughout songs that I haven't heard for a long time. Oh yeah, that's a banger. Ones you don't necessarily hear as needle drops in films.
Yeah.
And it's well acted. I think it's just a good feel good film, and there's a good place for those. The next one we're going to look at was certainly not that, but I think. And another reason why I chose this is that I didn't want to go for an artist. I didn't want to go for a musician. I wanted to go for someone who is behind the scenes and sort of is producer, someone who is really passionate about supporting music, rather than being in the headlights of it as such. So yeah, I think I'm pleased with the choice. I think
Okay.
it's influenced by Sean as well. I wanted to. Yeah.
I'm very pleased with the choice because it's one of my all-time favorites. So just
excellent.
All-timer. It's an all-timer.
So it's a win-win for you, Sean. Whichever film comes out.
I know it doesn't really matter because when I asked Peter what you chose, I was like, well, that's amazing. He did because I didn't choose it because I'd already done it on Filmbusters. So I was like, I better not choose the same one. But it probably would have been the one if I hadn't already chosen.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, I've only got one more thing to add before we move on for this film, and that is an X-Files connection.
Hey.
I thought I struggled. It was only 2 nights ago that I managed to find one, and I had to dig for this. I had to search for this, and it's not a direct one, but it's damn close enough for 2 British films that are all near enough completely British cast. But in this film, we've got an actor called Dimitri Garitas, who plays Paul McNally, who's the sort of American who I can't remember what he's doing exactly. I think I think he's the guy they maybe make the deal for with a van, possibly.
All right, okay.
But he's the only sort of American in it. He was in an episode of Millennium, which was an X-Files spin-off series the episode was called Exegesis. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the closest we got to an X-Files.
Yeah,
I love that you had to stretch. That's so good.
You know it, baby.
You did.
So there we go. That's Good Vibrations. And what we'll do at this point is take a short break and be back in a moment with Sean's choice. Okay, so welcome to the intermission. This is the part of the episode in which I ask my guests a random question, a question they haven't prepared for, and get their honest first answer. However, Jamie doesn't know this, but I'm not going to be asking the question. Mr. Sean Panda Nicholson is going to be asking the question. So, an opportunity for me to be stumped as well, Jamie.
Great.
So, Sean, you have prepared a question for us, and since I am a most gracious host, I shall answer first.
Okay, well, it's not, it's a pretty simple one.
Okay.
If you had to make a music biopic, who would it be about, and who would you cast in the starring role? It has to be one that's not already been made.
Been made.
Yeah, so like not a Johnny Cash, not a.
Okay.
What do you call
Well, I
it?
mean, it would have been interesting to maybe think about the Beatles, but that's already in production, which I think is a fantastic concept. But I don't think many people are going to go to the Ringo one. But there we go. I think. Do you know what? I'm going to go to one of not necessarily one of my favourite artists. I suppose they are, but we've talked about this before, Sean. But my favourite album of all time is The Lars.
Yeah.
By The Lars. And I'd quite like to see a Lee Mavers biopic because he's such a fantastic, fascinating individual, and I don't know too much about him. I know he had a lot of sort of substance abuse issues, but just the fact that they made this one album and he thought it was an absolute pile of shit and effectively left the music industry because he didn't rate the album at all and never did anything else ever again. I think is just a fascinating story, and I think it would be a fascinating story to watch and see and be lived out. Just to sort of, get into that, because I know they came back and did some festival runs and stuff, the full band and that, but he just literally, and I consider it to be, I would say it is the best album ever made. I know that's a very bold
It's a very
statement.
bold statement.
But
It's good.
for me, I just think it's incredible, and it's my favorite album. It's the one of those albums I can just put on and listen start to finish and not miss a beat on it.
Yeah.
Which I don't think there's. I still don't think there's that many. Even some really great albums, I think there's bits where you might flop or lull slightly in one song or something like that. But that for me would just be a fascinating story to be told.
Yeah, I would love that film. I'd watch that definitely. Like 100%. A hundo P, as the kids would say. Who would you have as Lee Mavers then?
Oh, Lee Mavers. Well, see, you can't really go for. I mean, Barry Keoghan playing a scouse sort of scally is right up his street really. But he's playing Ringo, I think, isn't he?
Is he? Oh my God.
I think so. Yeah. So I suppose he's sort of in that biopic sphere already, or he's gonna be very much soon. See, so's Paul Mescal. He's in that Beatles thing as well. I don't know. Maybe is it Jack O'Connell who's in?
Oh yeah.
He's in
quite
Sinners.
recently. Yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah, I could see
he
that.
could. Or who's the other guy who was in? Oh God, I can't think of his name. I can't even think what he was in. He was in that I Came By a couple of years ago about the graffiti artists that were going into rich people's houses. I can't remember his fucking name now. I'm gonna have to do some live googling, I'm afraid, folks. It was because it was one of those films where it was like he looks like he's going to be the star and he just wasn't. George Mackay, that's it.
George Mackay, yes.
Yeah.
He would actually, I think he'd be great.
He'd be a good shout.
Yeah, definitely. He was the 1917. He was in 1917, wasn't he, as well?
Yes. Yeah.
He was the main guy.
The main dude.
The main dude. He's got that emaciated look of Lee Mavers as well.
Yeah. Of a heroin addict, you mean?
Yes. Which I'm sure he will love me saying. Because me and him are tight anyway.
Yeah. He listens to this a lot. So
well, I'd be surprised if he didn't. I'm judging him if he doesn't.
Jamie, what would you have gone for?
Right.
Giving you lots of time to think about it then.
Time. I appreciate it, and I have actually come up with something.
Next time I'll just go the Lars. George Mackay.
If I were to do a music biopic, I'd want a really sort of really eventful, crazy, chaotic sort of one with a controversial band that you can go into all of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll with. So I've gone for Guns N' Roses. I think really sort of focused on the appetite for destruction, how they exploded onto the scene in that album, and then they're sort of they're moving on to Use Your Illusion when Terminator 2, and then of course you have the collapse after that and the breakup of the band, but then coming back as well. Later on you got the sense of obviously the Axl Rose as a leading man is going to be very, very eventful, and Slash as a very charismatic stage presence as well, and all of the drug chaos and that you can focus on. It'll be very eventful. It'll be very lively. And I'll go for you might have digitally de-aged them or something, but you need to go for charismatic performers. So I was thinking, who would be charismatic to play Axl Rose? And so, like, perhaps a de-aged Nick Cage would be great for that. You need someone who's going to throw himself into the role.
Jeez.
So just you do that. See where see that clip of him coming on the Wogan show and throwing money about it and just karate kicking his way onto stage. You need someone with that just what the hell sort of attitude. So Nick Cage would be great for that. And I was thinking for Slash, Robert Downey Jr. perhaps.
Oh yeah,
would be a potentially a good Slash. Again, someone with a bit of stage presence, bit of charisma. Who would direct that? Who would direct that chaos?
Jeez.
Aronofsky.
Oh God.
It would have to be someone who would really sort of be at ease with chaos.
Maybe those Russo brothers or whatever they're called.
The Russo brothers.
Christ.
Or the ones who made Everything Everywhere All at Once. Those
yes.
I can't remember what
someone like that.
The Daniels.
Yeah, the Daniels. Yeah.
Scheinert and something else. I can't remember what the other one is.
I'd love that film. These are two great films. I want to see them. So
I'd watch it.
Hurry up, Hollywood.
Shut up and take
Not
my
you,
money.
Weinstein. Sit down.
Okay, well, we'll call that the end of the intermission, gents, and we'll head back to the main episode.
Beep, beep, beep. Beep, 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 beep.
Good
I might
question,
just leave
Sean.
them in. You're saving my editing here. Fantastic.
But I'm used to listening to it, so.
Okay, so we are coming back with Sean's choice. I mean, before we get into your choice, Sean, obviously you talked a little bit about why you wouldn't have gone for Good Vibrations.
Yeah.
But was this an easy sort of second choice for you, or did you sort of ruminate on it a little bit?
I did. There was quite a lot. There was quite a lot of ones I was thinking of, but it's mainly because I've tried to find one that I hadn't watched in ages, so that I could just watch it again. It's just an excuse to watch one again.
Fair enough.
And I definitely wouldn't go for anything like Bohemian Rhapsody or something, because I just think it's just I think Bohemian Rhapsody is fun, but I think it's just, in a way, a pile of shit.
It is, but I think with that film, I think it was made to be commercial. It was made to be commercially successful.
Yeah.
They wanted to make as much, and that is that is the most successable biopic of all time. I think, isn't it?
Probably.
It made about $1 billion in the box office.
Yeah.
So it was made to cash in. So if you had the darker stuff into it, then it's not going to be as successful. And that, ultimately, if you're going to make a glossy Hollywood film, then it's going to cut out a lot of the warts and all, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I think we'll get some really good ones when, like, Brian May and all them are dead.
Well, that's it. That's it. Exactly. When you have people from the band that are still alive, you're going to have to tread carefully.
Well, I remember seeing, I think it was an interview with Sacha Baron Cohen, because he was originally cast as Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
And he said when he was sort of signed on, it was very much the first half of the film covered Freddie's death, and then it was just about Brian May and Roger Taylor, which obviously nobody really cared.
Yeah.
So it could have been a very different film, which I think would probably have been a bit more interesting, I suppose. And not that it's not interesting. I think it's a fine film.
Yeah.
And it's definitely entertaining, but it's not, it's taking some serious liberties, considering it was made in conjunction with people that are, whose story it is,
Yeah. And it's got that kind of thing that people make fun of, where it's like, I don't know, they'll tie someone up and then they'll go, I want to break free. Hey, you've got something there. I want to break free. And then, it's got that kind of thing where you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so ultimately, Sean, what did you go for, please?
Anyway, I went for 2007's Control.
Who's the writer?
Who do you think?
I think we should get married.
I hold my hands up. I am a believer in Joy Division. Hallelujah.
Now remember, we are live, so no swearing or they will cut you off.
What about Big Dog's cock? Can you say that?
We missed you.
You got it in, it's good.
When I'm up there, singing,
Genius, actually.
they don't understand how much I give. And how it affects me. I never meant for it to grow like this.
Get out!
I've no control anymore.
I love you.
What does that mean?
When you're looking at life in a strange new room, is this the start of it all?
Yes, Control. Don't know why. I felt like I needed to say more there. I don't know why. Did I need to? Yeah. But yeah. Do you want a synopsis?
Yes, please.
Okay. In 1970s England, troubled musician Ian Curtis, Sam Riley, rises to fame as lead singer of the band Joy Division. A husband and father, Curtis begins to feel the strain of his band's growing fortune, his crumbling marriage to wife Deborah, Samantha Morton, and his worsening epilepsy. I hope that was good enough. But yeah.
In
So
a
it's
nutshell.
it's based on his wife Deborah's memoirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is indeed. Have you got a cast list for us?
Oh, sorry. Yes. God, I am just terrible at this. But yeah, it was directed by Anton Corbijn. Is that his name? Corbijn? Did you say Corbijn? It's got a G in it, which is annoying. Corbijn. Corbijn. It's got Samantha Morton, Sam Riley, Alexandra Maria Lara. There's Toby Kebbell in there. Do I need to tell you who they are?
No, it's fine.
You've got James Anthony Pearson, Joe Anderson, and Harry Treadaway playing all the other members of Joy Division. But yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Oh, and there's Craig Parkinson as Tony Wilson.
Oh,
Can we get Tony Wilson again?
Tony Wilson. Okay, so when did you first see this film, Sean?
I saw it when I was a student, when it first came out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I haven't seen it since. I hadn't seen it since last night. So,
Right.
but I just remember it being visually good, and I remember the music being good.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And I watched it because, like, in the first place, was because I didn't really know anything about Joy Division. I don't think, just apart from Love Will Tear Us Apart. I mean, everybody knows that song, but I'd never heard anything else by Joy Division, and I was like, oh, this is quite interesting, actually. But yeah, that would have been, about 2007. It probably would have been when I was in college and stuff.
Yeah, I think I saw it not long after it came out. I think probably when it dropped onto DVD. I definitely didn't see it at the cinema. But I was a big, quite a big Joy Division New Order fan by this point. So it was, a lot of it wasn't necessarily new to me, the beats and the sort of their progression as a band, I suppose.
Yeah.
Were I sort of knew about. What about you, Jamie? Did you see this when it first came out?
No.
This was your first watch?
I watched it today.
Wow.
Okay, well, We shall find out your.
Being thoroughly prepared.
So
Yes.
what was your sort of opinion of it this time round compared to your first watching, Sean?
I loved it more,
Right.
actually.
Okay.
The first time I watched it, I was like, okay, that's fine. That makes sense. That was a bit sad. Um, because I had no idea. I knew Ian Curtis killed himself, but I didn't know, like, I didn't realize just how young he was
Mm.
and stuff. And
23, I think.
he's 23 years old. And like, I didn't know about his wife. I didn't know he had a wife and kid and all that kind of things. And that makes it even more, I don't know, it always makes it even more heartbreaking. And yeah, like the first time I was just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I really want to sort of listen to this band. But this time, I don't know if it's maybe because I'm older, I have more experience in the world, I have more experience with actually being quite depressed
Mm-hmm.
at times.
Yeah.
I can see some of him in me sometimes, but not all of it. Calm down. But yeah, there was some
Yeah.
of it where I was like, "Oh shit, I'm quite connected to this now," and I do think it. I do maybe feel it's a bit overlong. Um, and
Okay.
but I love again the music is so good and it's so well
Yeah.
done because they do
And
it
it's
live.
yeah, and they're all singing as well. It's
They're all singing
incredible.
and playing, and it sounds
Incredible how close they
amazing.
are.
Yeah, because it's even all the sort of stumbling because Bernard Sumner's guitar and stuff usually does have a little bit of like it's just a tiny bit out of time or something.
Yeah, they're so kind of ramshackle, Joy Division, but
Hmm.
beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
They've got this really weird dynamic where, I mean, generally in a band, like a four-piece, you have your drums and your bass are sort of, they're your rhythm and they're, projecting the song, but every single musician in this band is doing something different that just seems to work
Hmm.
so concurrently and beautifully at the same time. I think Peter Hook is so vastly underrated as a bass player.
Yeah.
But he's almost like he's not a bass player. He's not
Yeah, he plays it so high as well.
he's almost like a fucking lead guitarist with a bass.
Yeah.
Almost. He's so and he plays it so low. He's near enough on the ground. Whenever you see him live, we're getting a bit too musically here.
Yeah.
We're almost merging into
Three men in a
three
mixtape.
other men in a mixtape. Episodes available. But yeah, it blew me away actually because I didn't know that the first time I watched it is that they were performing and Sam Riley was singing.
Yeah. And he's got the mannerisms down to a T as
Oh
well.
God, yeah.
He's so good at being in Curtis. I can't believe like I think Cillian Murphy was
Yeah.
thought of he was going to be well, he was at least maybe going to be Ian
Mm.
Curtis, but like
It'd have
I
been a
can't.
very angry looking Ian Curtis.
Yeah,
It's perfect casting,
I think it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh, it's inch perfect casting. He does.
It's got that elbow
Yeah,
Yeah, the
dance
dead fly
sorted.
dancing that he used to do. Yeah, I mean, he's. I mean, you mentioned, the look of it sort of early on, um, and obviously I think black and white can sometimes come across as sort of a little bit pretentious from a
yes,
filmmaker. I think at times, but I think it does sort of justify it because it sort of adds to the sort of monotony and the sort of artistic nature of the story that it's telling.
yeah,
It's very much fits into that sort of Middle England of the late 70s. It takes you to that place. I think it would have been there would have been some vibrancy in the costumes, I think,
yeah,
and the colours that people wore there that would probably have detracted away from that sort of negative feeling that needed to be there.
yeah. It needed to be a miserable film, and it is. It's super
Mm.
miserable. I want to
Yeah,
warn
I mean,
anybody
I
who
would
watches
argue
it.
that maybe it it maybe could have done with a little bit of artistic license at certain points.
Yeah.
But you're also, I suppose, it's based on Deborah Curtis's memoir,
Yeah.
so she's not necessarily going to sugarcoat this guy who was a bit of a despicable bastard to her, to be
Yeah.
fair. Because I mean, you mentioned about the sort of mental health and depression that he's clearly sort of going through,
Hmm.
but it doesn't stop him making some really horrible decisions.
Yeah. Very
And his
selfish.
behavior is incredibly selfish.
Yep.
And also highly impulsive
Yeah.
as well, because
yeah.
he's the one who says, "Oh, let's get married, and then let's have a
baby.
baby,"
Yeah.
and and she goes
Yeah.
along with it, but he's like, he doesn't really sort of see the how the Russian things. Obviously, they married very young. How old was he
18, maybe 18,
18?
19.
So yeah,
Because I think they were together for like 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And he would have died at 23. So.
Well, I think he sort of, I think when you maybe get an inkling of Curtis and his story and his persona, I suppose, it's maybe sort of put across that he was a bit of a tortured genius. But I think he's a lot more. This portrays him as a lot more quite pretentious, I think, in places.
Yeah, especially at the start. He's a bit of a
Yeah.
knob. He's a bit of a
Oh,
knob.
God, yeah.
Like when it first started, it was like, existence, why does it matter? I was like, oh, fuck off. He just sounds like this pretentious wank. And then he's listening.
And he's aggressive when he's pursuing sort of promoting of the band, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's really sort of quite aggressive with that.
Well, he is.
But I think it's yes, absolutely. He makes some terrible decisions, but he does have some self-awareness of that. I think it's important because at one point where is it the band producer
Martin Hannah.
he's trying to sort of talk him up and he's trying to sort of improve his mood and sort of say, no, you're a good dad. And he said, no, I'm a shit dad. So he does have at least some self-awareness of being let down in certain areas, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think in the same breath, he's making, you have these, he makes these decisions, he has this affair, and then it's like, it's almost this, well, it's a toxic relationship that he has with Debbie. He's on the one hand saying he loves her and he needs her and everything else, and then literally in the same scene, he's back with Anik.
Yeah. Because
when he's
on the phone, that's the worst part. When he's on the phone and he goes, "I told her."
Yeah.
And then he just hangs up and then he goes to her.
Yeah.
I'm like, you fucking bastard.
Yeah.
So the bit that really got me was when he comes back to her, and she's delighted to see him, and she, well, put the kettle on for you, and he sees the child.
Yeah,
and he's got the bar. You can see that I think that's visually done very well. And then she comes back and he's gone. Straight away, he's gone. He's out the door. Like, oh.
I know there's like as well. There is a wee bit of things that are like they're not telling you about because I know that he was scared of holding his kid because of the fits.
Yes. Yeah.
Apparently, he was like quite scared of that. So I think they could have maybe made that out a bit. I don't know if that was maybe just a little nod to that or something, but as well, I was just sort of like you could make it a bit more explicit,
Yeah.
But there's obviously it's made by like is he not a photographer or something? Anton.
Yeah, he actually photographed Joy Division.
Yeah, and he filmed one of their videos.
Did he do Atmosphere? I think.
Yes.
Or was it? It might have been
release of it or something.
Or was it Love Is?
I think it was Atmosphere.
Will Tear Us Apart. I think it maybe is Atmosphere. Let me have a look. I can't find him now.
Because the cinematography is great. It's really good. Just the blocking. Often when you have conversational scenes, There's quite a lot of sort of pub-based scenes with lots of people, and to do that effectively and get everything blocked out is really difficult to do, and he does that very effectively. So when the camera moves, it moves purposefully. There's a reason for it, and then a lot of the time you have a very still camera with a wide shot, and it just stays like that, and it's very effective in how that is done.
He didn't direct any of the videos, but he did photograph them or met them.
Oh, right. Okay.
Although he did Enjoy the Silence, Depeche Mode.
Oh, Depeche Mode, yeah.
That's a fucking hell of a video. One by U2.
Yeah.
Heart-Shaped Box by Nirvana.
Sake, yeah. Wow.
Reoffender by Travis.
Oh, yeah.
And Talk by Coldplay.
Well, you can't have them all.
No, but I remember them all being. Well,
I actually remember Talk being. Was that not something to do with some sort of other planet or something? Or
yeah, it's a robot-y thing, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, he's got some chops, definitely.
Yeah,
because they're great. They are great. Great videos. I mean, we went through the cast. There's a lot of decent performances in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some really outside of, well, maybe let's stick to Sam Riley a little bit and Samantha Morton. Let's sort of talk about them a little bit, because I think Riley, again, his performance is all in his eyes. There's so much acting with his eyes, whether it's that sort of glancing that look at Debbie early on when they're young, or just his reactions to everything. And I think, some of the plot points, I remember when I was watching it this time, I'm thinking, well, that's quite lazy, particularly the point where he is sort of doing his job at the job centre, and the girl has an epileptic fit.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's just quite lazy. But obviously that sort of lays into this sort of hang up that he has, that this epilepsy is going to kill him.
Yeah.
And this sense of mortality that is really sort of weighing on him. And that's obviously, something that leads to the conclusion of this film, and a big part of that. But just in those kind of moments, just how he's portraying that fear and that emotion, or sometimes how he's portraying the emotionlessness at points as well.
The numbness.
Yeah. That's a much easier word to say, yeah. But yeah, I think it is a very and Sam Morton, isn't she? I don't think
she's brilliant. Yeah, excellent performance. I mean, both central performances are sensational, really.
Yeah, because it would be easy to have this wife character be completely, you're a bastard, but she loves him. She loves the bones of him, and she will do anything for him up to a point. And you think
your heart just aches for her, though. It really does.
Especially even up to the very end.
Yeah,
there's that note, the letter that is left.
Oh, fuck!
Was it,
what a
give
fucker.
my love to Anik?
Yeah.
Oh my fucking
arse. I really hated him by the end of this film.
Yes.
Really did hate him. Yeah. But and I think that the way they frame that final scene, obviously she finds him hanging, as we know did happen. It's not sort of shown graphically in the film. It certainly doesn't need to be.
No.
But just the way that he frames that final scene where atmosphere kicks in, which is an epic song, and it's so suited to the end of the film, and I'm glad they saved it for that. But you cut to these different people. You see Anik with Tony Wilson, who's being comforted. You see the band who are just just sat
the pub, aren't they?
In the pub with each other, and then that's contrasted with Debbie and her daughter in the middle of the street with nobody.
Yeah, all alone.
All
and just
alone
shouting. She's shouting, somebody help. Or can anyone help me or something? And
it's an incredibly bleak end.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I like in a way, because it is at least at least it's honest. You know, because I don't want a Hollywood ending to something that I know wasn't a very nice thing. I don't. Yeah,
Well, that's it. But then that's the story, isn't it? I suppose
yeah,
it's about a man who's sort of haunted by his own weakness and poor decisions, and these decisions that he can't stop making.
yeah,
He's sort of plagued by his own mortality at 23, and it's a selfish life in the end that
yeah,
is just ended with the most selfish of acts,
yeah, yeah.
because it is, there are all these people that you know
Have to pick up the pieces, after.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's so, but you can see, and you can see these people all in their way are trying to help, and I know it's not, anybody who's been through any depression and mental health struggles, it's not fucking easy. It
yeah,
seriously isn't, and it's hard to. I think it's hard to watch and see these people who are really sort of in their own way trying to help him,
But that scene when
and
he go,
none more than his wife.
yeah,
yeah, just the scene when he goes to the doctor when he first had his epilepsy, and he gets just a multitude of drugs given to him, one
Yeah,
after the other. You just think, and that's the beginning, isn't it? Although you have the scene earlier on when he steals from that the
yeah,
old lady's supply. So he'd obviously sampled before, but I think that sort of really made him drug dependent
mm.
by that point.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's down to that fear, isn't it? I think but then he was. There was also times where people had to keep telling him to take his drugs because
yeah.
he just wasn't taking them, and
And
I
he was
think
also
that's
doing stuff like drinking and smoking and not sleeping properly,
yeah,
which are obviously going to exacerbate his epilepsy.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's very, it's obviously a very brutally honest film, and it builds very little sympathy for Curtis as a character. And I think
Yeah,
it's such a brave decision to not take that artistic license
yeah,
and have a bit more sympathy for him, or him make, because he doesn't make any nice decisions
no,
at all through this film. I mean, other than you get these sort of fleeting moments in the job centre where he's actually maybe
I
being
was going to suggest
yeah,
that maybe sort of suggests that there's a more sort of caring side to him.
yeah,
But is that something that he is doing, sort of, from an altruistic part of his character, or is he? It's just a job, and he's going to put that front on for his job to make some money, and then so it's not his true self.
yeah,
It's his job self.
yeah,
I don't know. You can read it either way, I suppose.
yeah.
yeah, possibly. I mean, the worst bit for me, just I'm going to finish my Ian Curtis bashing,
Okay.
is when he asks Debbie if she wants to sleep with other men,
Oh yeah,
Oh yes, yeah.
and then she says, when you ask things like that, it makes me feel like don't love me anymore." And he says, "I
Hmm.
don't think I do."
Yeah.
I'm like, you fucker.
Uh-huh. There's so many cutting lines.
Yeah,
I'm
because it's like
But then,
theory, you're saying that, and women are going to act. If you ask women that question, they're going to act one of two ways, and one of them is going to be an extremely negative reaction, and then you follow that up with saying that you don't love them to a
yeah,
woman you're married to and you got a fucking kid with.
yeah, but then later he says he loves her.
yeah.
Yeah,
When
So
yeah.
yeah,
he's
she's going
Well,
up the stairs or something.
there's a
yeah.
fair bit of narcissism in that relationship for sure. But then again, we're getting this is all effectively told from Debbie Curtis's
Yeah,
perspective, really. Based on her.
Which I don't think she's got any reason to be
No.
dishonest.
no, yeah.
There's that
She doesn't gain anything from
no,
it.
and there's that sex scene where he just starts crying.
Yeah,
Oh,
crying.
that's oh dear. Yeah, that is a brutal scene. That
Mm. It's pretty miserable, isn't it? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Well, no, I think there are some light moments in it. And I think we do
Yeah.
get this
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of you do get the birth of this band, and that story is quite fascinating. I think it is, like you said, Sean. I think it is probably a little bit too long, and I think we do sort of dwell on the Anik affair
Yeah. I want less
probably
Anik.
a bit too much. But that sort of building the story of their rise to fame, because they were a very popular band at the height of or about to sort of peak at the height of their popularity with the American tour and everything. But
And that's something he took away from his band as well.
yeah,
Technically.
they had to rebuild themselves, didn't they?
Mhm.
Um,
How good is Peter Hook though? I love how miserable they made him. Like he's just that's how he is as well. Just a miserable prick.
yeah, well, I mean, I
But
think I think Craig
he's funny.
Parkinson as Tony Wilson is quite close.
Mm.
I think I've seen a lot of interviews with the actual Tony Wilson, and I think he is quite close to how he was. And I mean, Rob Gretton. If you've never read into Rob Gretton, I encourage you to do so, because he was a fucking character. He was a serious character. He was a very, very much a sort of Manchester hard case, and bit of a football yob, and quite a lot more aggressive than he probably is in this film.
Yeah. I know he's quite
If
funny in this. It's Toby Kebbell, isn't it?
Toby Kebbell, yeah,
He's great in it. I love him.
which is a great sort of, particularly the scene where Ian Curtis turns up with Anik at his house because he's been kicked
Oh
out,
yeah.
and then Debbie phones up and
Yeah. He just basically tells her pretty
yeah,
much.
like, well, we're all fucking here now.
One big happy fucking family.
He's got some great lines, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But I think they're
How
all
how
good.
you gonna how you gonna book gigs without a phone, you daft cunt? Yeah.
That's our fourth
Great.
cunt of the night.
I love that bit. I love that
I
bit.
haven't done
though.
any yet.
Yeah, but I think they're all the sort of bit parts and the supporting cast are really top notch. I think James Anthony Pearson, there's this sort of a bit sort of ditzy Bernard Sumner. I don't think he's
Yeah.
maybe that ditzy in real life, but and Harry Treadaway as well is good as Stephen Morris. But they're all
That signing of the contract in blood, was that,
In Blood, yeah.
true
did
story.
that actually happen?
That's
Yeah?
true story. Yeah. Yeah, in
Brilliant.
a pub as well. I don't know whether he passed out, but it's a true story that he signed it in blood. But
Wow.
Tony Wilson was a notorious. Same with as Terry Dooley.
Truly.
He was a notoriously bad record company manager, or whatever the word is. Factory Records lost tons and tons of money, and most of the bands that were signed to Factory Records never made a penny.
Yeah.
Because he also signed everything over to the bands, but then all the decisions were, most famously, one of the biggest records that Factory Records ever had was Blue Monday by
Oh yeah.
New Order.
New Order.
And basically they got this fantastic sleeve and these blue LPs, or blue discs that they were printed on. It looked absolutely mint, absolutely fantastic, great song, everything else, but the cost to produce it was not enough to cover the single, so
Yeah.
they literally lost 5p for every single they sold, and it was like the greatest selling single of
Yeah.
8-inch or something of all time, and it never made a dime because of Tony Wilson.
Great. I love that story.
But I mean, well, I'll talk about it now because I'm going to mention it a little bit later. But I would thoroughly recommend, if you like the sort of story of this, watch 24-Hour Party People.
Okay.
Which is a Michael Winterbottom film, which
it's
is
Coogan,
more,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's more the story of Factory Records than it is Joy Division, but Joy Division of big part of the early part of that film, and they're in the second half, and then the second half sort of moves to Happy Mondays and things like that. But it's a much more light-hearted affair. But the reason I bring it up especially is because Paddy Considine plays Rob Gretton in that
Oh,
film.
nice.
And if you ever look up Rob Gretton and interviews, there's very few of them. He wasn't, someone who did a lot of interviews or anything like that. It is impeccable. Paddy Considine's performance and mimicry of Rob Gretton is incredible. And apparently that performance is what everybody will point you to who knew Rob Gretton and say that is Rob Gretton. It's brilliant. But anyway, that's another film. But watch it, it's great.
Okay.
So anything else you want to add to that, Sean?
Not really. I mean, like, basically, the thing that I was saying about seeing myself in him was just the disassociation, of the
Yeah.
world and his bandmates and stuff. It's like it's so worrying and it's just painful to watch, I think. And I think I've definitely felt that, like the disassociation from just everything and that numbness and yeah. But that was like I was like, oh fuck, that's totally how it is
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, it's
But
that burying your head
yeah,
in the sand mentality, isn't it? And looking for something
yeah,
else that is going to take your mind off the thing that you're depressed about, or the thing that you're worried about, or the thing that you're anxious about.
yeah,
It's finding, and that thing for him was Anik, I suppose, at the end of the day.
yeah,
She's not a nice, well, it's certainly not nice for his wife and his kid kind of thing. But
yeah,
there's that's some way you can sort of go to him understanding why. I think it's more his behavior to kind of justify that,
yeah.
where he comes across as being a bastard.
Oh yeah.
Sean, I've got a question.
Yeah.
What do you think about that's the performance where he can't go out on stage. He does go for a little bit and then he goes back off again. And what did you think of the reasons behind that? Because previously he did say he put so much of himself in his performances, and he's really sort of intense as a performer, isn't he? What do you think of what do you think were the reasons for him refusing to go on stage?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if there could have been as well just a fear that he was going to have a fit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I know that was one of his fears as well about going to America. He was afraid that people were going to make fun of him because he was having a fit on stage and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, man.
Yes, of course, that was because he had a fit in his previous performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I wasn't sure if that was it or if it was just, just everything, the weight of everything, and just being like, I can't do this.
Yeah. Aye. And there's still sort of moments of levity, I think, in that early part of the film, particularly the line, "Fucking hell, who opened the ham?" after everyone had been farting in the green room. It was a particular favourite of mine. And it was great to see a bit of John Cooper Clarke as well. Who I think is
the actual John Cooper Clarke.
the actual John Cooper Clarke doing his
poem.
Evidently Chicken Town.
Yeah.
Is the name.
Walking, people, walking. Walking.
But I would find him such a fascinating. I'm not a big poetry fan.
Yes.
But I think he was such a big part of that era as well, and that sort of Manchester scene. Or sort of I think Salford's district of Manchester, is that right? Or is it town on the outskirts kind of thing?
Am I gonna know?
I don't know.
I live on an island.
But yeah, I think that was a very sort of nice little touch, I think, having John Cooper Clarke in there.
Yeah, and to have it, because, obviously he's aged a bit.
But he doesn't look any different, though.
Yeah, he just dresses the same, doesn't he? And that, yeah.
I think, actually, he's in 24-Hour Party People as well.
Oh, cool.
We're doing something about Manchester in the 70s. Get John Cooper Clarke in. We need him.
I do find him pretty fascinating, though. I do. Again, I don't get much of the poetry because I don't get poetry. It's just that I don't know. It's hard. I need someone to sort of interpret the poetry like a singer or a yeah. Whereas someone just saying poetry at me, I'll probably go pretty blank.
You just need a teacher.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need a teacher. Hello.
It's the one thing I find most difficult to teach, though, poetry. I have to say, I have to admit to that.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have to employ you as my poetry teacher.
I just told you I find it hard, Sean.
I don't care. I'll be paying you.
Yeah, start with some John Cooper Clarke. Will be good.
Okay. Fucking.
The fucking rings, the fucking monk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. Okay, so that's Control.
Yeah.
Okay. So, should we give you my thoughts then, gents?
Go.
Yes, please.
And I think it's a bit of a tough one. I'll start with Control because I remember watching this for the first time, and I think the point that I would agree with probably the most, that Sean said, is that it's too long. I think it is, and I think for me, I've got to make quite a serious admission that will probably disturb some people. But I had to stop watching this halfway through because it was angering me.
Okay.
And watch Rise of Skywalker.
How is that not going to put anger in you?
Exactly.
Well, I'd started watching it the night before, and I was like, I need to just deflate a little bit, I think, and pick this up again tomorrow. Because I wasn't in the best of headspaces either, and I don't think that was helping at that point. And it angered me a lot more on this watch, and I think that's probably been quite evident than when we've been talking about it. But it is such an incredible film, and I think it is so brazen in terms of, how true it feels and how honest it is about real life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't. It makes it so hard to watch without, feel. But then it makes you feel emotions. It definitely makes you feel, and quite a wide range of emotions. Because I think the bits that we discussed about Good Vibrations, they're still there. You still have these sort of moments where they're becoming this great band and having these moments within their career. But I think there is just too much of the dank. There's too much of the dank, to quote The Simpsons. It's the dag, Mo, but the dag. But yeah, it looks beautiful. It's so well performed. I mean, Good Vibrations. I think I probably wanted to love it a bit more than I did. And I think the point that Sean made about it being quite straightforward did ultimately leave me feeling a bit flat about it. I'd like to revisit it at some point because I think I would probably have a different perspective if I watched it again. But I was, it still hit a lot of the beats, but it did feel a bit ordinary to me. I don't think it touched me in the way that it maybe did you, Sean, obviously, and Jamie as well. But I still enjoyed it. I still thought it was a very good film. But I don't know. There's a bit of conflict here about which one.
They're so wildly different as well.
Yeah, exactly.
In tone. Oh.
But I think maybe I've got to go with what I probably would want to watch again, and at this point, that is probably Good Vibrations.
Yeah.
Just.
Well, I don't care. I love both of these films.
Because I think it works. Maybe it's just the landscape of my mind at the moment that I don't think I could put myself through Control again.
Yeah,
because
it's a tough watch.
It is, and what we sort of touched on earlier, about I don't know we didn't really talk about it for Control, but I wasn't a father at the time when I watched this, so this is. I think I saw Control this time around much more through a father's eyes,
Okay. Yeah.
and
That will influence
that
your.
really, I think that really changed my perspective of the story. I remember being a bit put off by the whole Anik
Yeah.
storyline because I think it was done. You know, the romance felt a bit icky because that's the sort of romance story. The romance isn't between him and Debbie; it's between him and Anik, and it was. They could have cut a little bit of that out. We know what's going on, but both very good films.
Yeah.
Both very, very good films for very different reasons, I think. But I would get, yeah, I think just purely based on which one would I watch again right now, it's probably Good Vibrations.
That's fair enough.
So
I think it's gonna be a while before I watch Control again. But I think I'll
But
probably go YouTube those music sequences though. They were so good.
fuck yeah, so good,
Hmm.
so good. But I mean, if I'd have had a dog in the hunt, dog in the hunt, dog in the race, I keep getting this wrong.
Dog in
Dog in the
the
hunt, is that right?
dog up your
Horse in
arse.
the race. If I had a horse in the
horse
race,
in the race, yeah.
Yeah.
if I had an elephant in the
Fridge.
fridge, I'd have gone for, I mentioned it earlier, 24-hour Party People.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's
Oh,
incredible, and nobody's seen it
Hmm.
apart from me and a couple of friends, I think. But I would thoroughly recommend it because it's a whole lot of fun, and it's it's just bonkers, absolutely bonkers.
Okay.
You've got Steve Coogan as Tony Wilson, and God, what's his name? Plays Ian Curtis. It's much more of a light interpretation of Ian Curtis, but it's the guy.
Okay.
He's been in fucking all sorts. Sean Harris, I want to say.
Oh yeah, Sean Harris from Possum and stuff.
Possum,
And
yes,
he was
yeah.
in like Mission Impossible, I suppose.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just, but it's great. It's sort of it breaks the fourth wall, and Tony Wilson talks to the camera. It's Tony Wilson was basically the inspiration for Alan Partridge, so this is where it sort of connects in. But it goes there's so many little bit parts in it, cameos and all sorts. You know, it goes to. You know, you've got sort of Jeruti Column and The Fall, Happy Mondays, Joy Division, New Order, and it's just incredible film. Absolutely love it. But that would have been my pick anyway. Or I would have maybe even considered Walk the Line because I do like Walk the Line. It's Hollywood, but it is pretty good.
Yeah, it doesn't shy too far away.
No, and that has a bit of a redemption arc as well.
Yeah,
and that's like but that's a nice love story as well.
Yeah,
bit of romance.
Bit of romance. That's what we need. Need less shit dads. Less shit husbands.
Well, I mean, he was still a shit husband, wasn't he, Johnny Cash?
Yeah,
just took him a while to get there.
Yeah, but again, he at least redeemed himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about that, didn't we? On
Yeah.
3 Men and a Mixtape, available on all good podcast stations. They had that redemption arc and pretty great fucking love story in the end.
Yeah.
So it feels worthy of that cheese in that film, I think. But yes, there we go. So that wraps us up. So this is my favourite part of the show where our guest gets to talk about his own podcast.
Okay.
So Sean, your podcast, 4 Songs and a Dream.
Yes, 4 Songs and a Dream. It's where I ask interesting people, usually creative people, to pick 4 songs that are special to them in some way, not necessarily their favorites, and we will talk about them over a little, I don't know, about an hour at the most chat, and it's
a little soiree.
It's just, I love it. I love doing it so much, and I'm so happy I'm back at it. because I don't know, I forgot just how much I missed it. Like I didn't realize just how much I missed it and how much it meant to me until I got back to it. And how much I just love it. I love doing it. I love speaking to people and finding out little stories about other people. And I had you on, and that was pretty cool.
You did.
That was the first one of
so much fun.
Yeah, so that is available for anyone on all your podcast places. Yeah, and I also have a Patreon, so please sign up for that because I need money, man.
You
I
do,
need money
yes.
so bad. But but no. Like it's kind of like Desert Island Discs, but without a budget, charismatic host, or like good journalism. So
you're oozing charisma, Sean.
Charisma. No, don't be
coming out your pores.
Oh. What color is charisma?
I imagine it being a sort of orangey color.
I was going red. I was thinking red because of crimson, but that's just because they sound similar. Yeah. But yeah. So 4 Songs in a Dream. It's very good. Very good. And I do have some amazing guests coming up. It's ridiculous how many people say yes to this.
I know you do.
And reel off some of the guests that have been on it historically as well.
Okay, well, I've had Stuart Braithwaite from Mogwai. I've had James Walsh from Star Sailor. I've had comedians like Rich Wilson and Christopher McCaffrey Boyd. Who else have I had? Podcasters like Ben Murray. I've had John Murray.
John Murray.
Who's he then? You know him.
You have Mark off of Movie Drone.
I have Mark off
Another
Movie
friend
Drone.
Of the pod.
Jesus, I've had like 140 episodes, so it's really hard to remember. But like,
so you can find if it will drop the links to both of your feeds because you've restarted with a new feed, like a bit like the new Doctor Who,
which is really annoying.
It's like a new series
because Spotify wouldn't let me put it over. I don't know how it works. But
people will find it.
Yeah, I think the only way to do it is to pay Podbean. Whoever I was on hosting before, I think I have to pay them, and I don't want to do that.
But basically, everybody, go and listen to this podcast. If you find the 4 Songs in a Dream with the logo with the grey, I believe, at the moment.
That's a new one.
That's the new feed, which you'll find me on, and a few others. Who have you released so far?
I have had a Gallic metalcore artist called Gunhool, who is pretty interesting. I had Thought Fox, which is Andrew Pankhurst. He's a musician. I've got Tia Jackson coming up from the Alien Effect podcast, which I'm pretty excited about. Which that was recorded last night. Who else have I got? This is bad. This is terrible. How do I not know who I already have? Because it's not that big a thing. I had Ryan Firth from Day Sleeper and Paul Mellon from FO Machete. So and there's going to be a lot more.
So that's on the new feed. If you search for 4 Songs in a Dream, and again we'll drop the links in this show notes for this episode. You'll also find a red logo, which was the original feed, with hundreds of episodes.
Yeah, about 138 or about 140, I think. Yeah. There's also like 4 movies in a dream, or 4 films in a dream, I think it was, with Jed Shepherd, who made Host. He was one of the people who worked on Host with Rob Savage, and
very nice.
That was really cool. That was made the day before Host came out.
Oh, excellent.
Which was really, really exciting. So it's kind of nice to listen to that one back. Because it was sort of like COVID time as well, and But anyway,
lovely.
Anyway, please listen.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, I say anyway a lot as well. Anyway,
doesn't matter.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
But there we go. 4 Songs in a Dream. I'm going to keep saying it. Just go and listen to it because it's an amazing podcast and it's one of my favourites.
Not as good as this one.
I'm so glad it's back. But yes, there we go. So, Sean, thank you so much.
No, thank you for letting me be on.
An absolute pleasure, as always. Thank you, Jamie, as well.
Pleasure.
So check all of our links in the show notes. and stuff and Patreon and all that. Go and check it out now. So just leaves me to say goodbye, for Sean to say goodbye.
Oh, wait. I'm pulling rank here. Right.
What?
This is Sean's film. This is Sean's favorite film. One of Sean's favorite films. I want him to deliver the line because I also want you to choose one of Terry's lines so he can deliver it in his wonderful Irish impression.
Okay.
Go on, choose one. Choose your
So it doesn't
favorite
have to be
one.
anything.
Okay, so that leaves me to say goodbye, Jamie to say goodbye,
Goodbye,
and for Sean to say.
I never thought I'd cut a record by myself, but I got something I want to say. I want to say it for Cher, and I hope I say it for a lot of people.
The Shangri-La.
Why can't I be like any guy?